Hello, you beautiful people, and we're going to be continuing with our formula tricks, but we're going to be talking about sum product, power, round, and the M round formula. So, if you could open the formulas file under level 1 and come to sheet 3, we can continue. Now, if you look at this first case here, you would see want to use sum product for finding weighted average computation. Now, if you look at this case, you would observe you have lots purchased, that's quantity of lots purchased. You have the price of each lot. Now, how do we find weighted average? This is the normal way to find weighted average. You multiply each quantity with the corresponding price. So here we have 100 multiplied by 1200. You're going to have 500 multiplied by 1000, 250 multiplied by 14. So we can just drag this formula down to autocomplete all that, right? And the way to find weighted average is you find the sum of the total price paid divided by the sum of the lot. So let's find the sum of total price paid here. Remember the formula we use to find sum, as alt equals to. So we have the total right there, and we'll find the total of lots purchased, that's the quantity, with alt equals to. Right. So now we can find the weighted average price per lot, and that would be the total price paid, the sum of the total price paid divided by the sum of lots purchased. So let's do that. Equals to this divided by this. And you can see we get an answer which corresponds right here, 1185.57. And that's fine. But there's an easier way to sort to solve all of this with just one line of formula. So let me remove all the answers we just filled. So now there's a formula you can use, the sum product formula, to find this total, the sum of the total price paid in one line. Now, how do we do that? Enter the sum product. Remember to use the tab key to autocomplete the formula. And if you look at the parameters, the suggestions, it's telling you to enter an array. So what does it mean? This array right here of quantity, the one we multiplied with its corresponding array of the price for each lot, you enter the first array, then you put a comma and select the second array. And you can see it gives us the same answer we had before, 1,150,000. But there's something you should note about selecting your arrays. Your arrays must correspond in number. So if I entered, maybe mistakenly, I entered the first three, and I entered for the second array, I now entered the complete four, it's not going to work. So you must make sure that your arrays correspond in number. So so now let's find the weighted price lot at once. So knowing that we can use the sum product to find the sum of the total price paid, we can just find the weighted price per lot this way. You enter your sum product, enter your array 1, enter your array 2. So with this formula right here, we know that we're going to get the right answer for this total right here. So now we need to divide it by this. And we know that this cell should contain the sum of this array. So what we'll do is you just after this first sum product formula, you divide it by the sum of this array. That's the number of lots purchased. Voila, we have our weighted price per lot. Now let's move on to sheet 4, control page down. Now, how do we compound using Excel? When I say compound, I mean raising a number to a certain power. So, how do we, for instance, find 5 raised to power 4? We all know that powers using powers helps us to avoid doing something like this, having to do 5 multiplied by 5 multiplied by 5 and multiplied by the fourth 5. So the one way to do it is to do 5. Then if you then press Shift and 6. If you look beside the your 6 button on your keyboard, you notice that this small power function right here. So you enter that and 4, and it gives us our answer. Also, alternatively, you could use the power formula for this. So enter power, and if you look at the parameters it suggests which number do you want to raise. You want to raise 5. What power do you want to raise 5 to? You want to raise it to 4. You enter 4 and you can press enter. So it gives us that same answer, and these are just some common applications in finance: compounding, discounting cash flows, and annuity. Now let's move on to sheet 5. Now sheet 5, here we talk about rounding off numbers. So how do we round off to a whole number? For instance, how do we round off 54.6344 to a whole number? What a common practice done by some people is that they select what they want to round off. Let me copy this to another cell. So um, they want to round off 54.6344, right? They select it. They come over to the home tab. Then if you look under this number section here, you will see these 2 buttons. One says increase decimal and the other says decrease decimal. So they just go ahead and decrease the decimal, right? Decrease it until they have a whole number. This is okay, but there's a danger to this. Um, Even though it looks like 55 from the outside, if you open it, that's by double tapping or F2, if you open it up, you'll notice that it's actually not 55, it's 54.6344. And the danger about doing this is that if you now wish to multiply this cell by another value, what it's actually going to do is, let me multiply it by 1000 and show you. It actually uses the original value of 54.6344 to multiply. Now, it's okay if you just wish to change the presentation. You just want it to show 55 and you're not actually going to use that value to multiply with anything or for any other formula. That's fine. But in case you may need to refer back to that cell and you actually want it rounded up, this is how you do. You use the round formula. So here I'm going to enter the round formula, equals to round. Look at the parameters. It says which number do you want to round off? I want to round off this number. We want to round off to a whole number, and a whole number is the number of digits Excel will accept for a whole number is 0. 0, that is for a whole number. And as you can see, it has rounded it off to 55, the answer we need right here. Now, I just want to show you something to have an idea of which number digit you should um, use for this formula. So here I have whole number. The next cell I have one decimal place. Or let me put I have, because we're talking about multiples of 10. So I have 0 0.0, 0 0.1. Here I have 0 0.01. To the left of whole number, I have the nearest. First instance, if they say round up to the nearest 10, I have nearest 10. Here I have um, nearest 100, and like that. So the number digit you should enter for whole number, as we just did, was 0. But the number digit for one decimal place, which would be 0 0.01, would be 1. For 0 0.01 would be 2. And if you go the other way, for nearest 10, it would be -1. For nearest 100, it would be -2. So I just want you to have an idea of the correct number that you should answer. Then you know if you are moving this way, to be 3, 4, 5. Moving here, -3, -4. So to round off to the nearest 10 now, enter round. We enter the number we want to round off. We want to round it off to the nearest 10. Nearest 10 is -1. So we enter -1. Okay, we want to round off to the nearest 100 right here. So enter round, enter the number. Nearest 100 will be -2. Right? We want to round off to the nearest 1000. So we enter round, and nearest 1000, you know, nearest 1000 should be here after 100, so it will be -3. Now, what if you want to round off to the nearest 50? 50 is not a multiple of 10. So for any when you want to round off to a value that is not a multiple of 10, you need to use the M round formula. The M in the M round formula stands for multiple, so like multiple round formula. So we enter M, autocomplete with tab. Now we enter the number we want to round off. We want to round off 121,174 to the nearest multiple of 50. To the nearest 50. You enter 50, and you can see it gives us an answer. So this is very useful for rounding off to a number that is not multiple of 10. So we can try, let's round it off to the nearest 25, nearest 30. So you can just play around with this and try it out. So that brings us to the end of this lesson. Again, I'll appreciate your feedback. Let me know anything I can improve upon in these lessons. And you may want to practice this a few times just to master them. And I'll see you in the next episode, next lesson.